Welcome to the next episode of the Blue Honor Vlog. I'm Kay Williams, author of OpDoc Operation Deceit, the Triloquia Trilogy series, and Blue Honor, the United States Civil War drama. Today I want to talk about last year. I don't know about you, but wow, that really sucked. That was harsh. And I'm not even really sure how I got through it. I just noticed that time passed by as fast as could be. It just seemed like everything went by super, super fast. And thankfully, at the point of taping this, everything has been okay in my family. My grandmother, which you may or may not know, was diagnosed with cancer last January, so that started out my year. And my dad has been battling cancer also for several years now, and he's not remission, but surviving. He's living every day, and he is getting therapy, etc. So we're positive, and we try to stay positive. And I've gone through a lot in my life. If you've watched the other blogs and seen some of the questions that I've answered and the things that I've been through, I've had to learn how to kind of spin things to be a little bit more positive, and that's like a survival instinct for me, because no one likes feeling bad. No one likes depression. No one likes the anxiety that they have. And people who say things like, you must love it if you don't get help or you don't do anything about it, they really don't know what they're talking about. There's in a lot of cases, there's not much that you can do. It is just there. It is part of you, and you figure out how to navigate things. And like with my dad's cancer, you survive, and you figure out what therapies work for you, etc. So 2020 really brought a lot of us down, and I saw a lot of people suffering, friends and family. And it was really hard. I didn't get to see my brother as much. My family quarantined while other people just spread the disease. And I'm like sitting here going, I have family members, like my dad also has lung issues because of smoking. So he's extremely at high risk. So I watch all these other people who refuse to wear masks or refuse to quarantine or getting bored with it. And I get pretty well irritated, because it's like, you know what? If you had done what was asked and stayed home for 2 weeks, and I'm sure there were things that you could have done at home, straighten up your house, your apartment, get your shit together, whatever it was, stayed home, did nothing, it would be gone. And that's been proven in other nations. So I don't know, pardon my language, what the fuck is wrong with Americans and why they can't get their shit together. But here we are in January, and November saw an uptick, and people were told not to hang out with their families, not to have their family gatherings for Thanksgiving and Christmas, etc. And people still, I want to go out and have a meal, at a restaurant, or I want to go hang with my friends, or I'm not worried, it's just a cold. Except, hundreds of thousands of people are dying from it. And you may not care because that's not you or your family members, which just kind of makes you a narcissist. Not kind of, it does. It makes you a narcissist, and you lack empathy. And you don't even actually care for yourself, which is really kind of the baseline for narcissists. They don't even care about themselves. They just do things that are immediate gratification in the now, etc. They don't think of the long term. Like, you would do the 14 days so that you could get back out there, right? If you knew. But then you've got all these people with their conspiracy theories, and shit got real nuts. And it was terrible. So you could go to a dark place with that and be like really depressed and angry. But I promised myself that I wouldn't do that several years ago. I woke up one day, I said, I hate feeling like this. And I'm going to do everything that I can to try and find that quote unquote silver lining and breathe and feel good and not wake up every morning going, I can't do this anymore. That is the worst mantra to wake up and say. You know, you have to find another mantra at that point. And it just really comes to you when you have depression and anxiety. It's there. It comes in, and it's like the first thought of the day when your feet hit the floor before you even shut off the alarm. You're like, I can't do this anymore. I'm tired. I'm so tired. And ever since embarking on this, like, okay, try to find the lesson, try to find the positive thing, it's gotten a lot easier. So when I wake up and go, oh my God, I don't want to do this, it's because I'm tired, literally. And I just don't want to get out of bed, and I need a sick day. So what I do to kind of accomplish that is when something goes wrong, I try to analyze it a little bit. I don't spend too much time picking it over. I'm like, okay, that happened. What is my next step? And I kind of treat things sort of in a business vein. And I think about, what are my next steps? So this failed, or this fell through, or I'm disappointed with that. What can I do to give myself the positive that I'm looking for so that I can move forward and not wake up tomorrow morning going, I can't do this anymore? Whatever that is. Maybe I need a hot bath. You know, just relax and chill or something, and put it into some kind of perspective. You are not always going to win. That's the other thing we've got to understand. It's like, and it can feel like, well, I never win. And you've got to go back and say, okay, but is that true? And what are the good things that I do have? And list them out for yourself. And don't let your brain sit there and say, well, I'll probably put that up too, and then I won't have that anymore. But you do have that, okay? And let's not worry about messing it up. So focus on the positives, okay? So like this year, I promised myself that I would put aside a little bit of money, which is kind of tough, especially when you have a toddler and you're a single mom. Put aside a little money each month to try and put my screenplays into contests and prove to myself that I could do this, or actually make the steps to move forward on this and to get to that next level, learning, etc. And despite rejections, I became a finalist with the Shadow Soul script in the Women's International Film Festival. Imagine this, Women's International Film Festival. And OpDec was also selected by the Sacramento Film Festival. That meant a lot to me. And despite COVID happening and how film festivals were shut down and people couldn't actually meet in person, they went online. And that actually helped me immensely. So it's like this horrible ravaging disease caused us to switch how that we do things. And I was able to engage on a level. Like prior to, I would have had to take a trip to Sacramento to actually take part in the film festival. And I was thinking to myself, who's going to go with me, and how can I afford a plane ticket, and who's going to watch my kid? How am I going to do this? I got to take time off from work, and the anxiety just starts, and you start freaking out, and you shut down, and you don't want to do it, and you push it off. This way I was able to go online and do Zoom meetings, meet new people, learn more about my craft, perfect pitching lines, write pitching lines, pitch, you know, just all of that really important stuff. And the Imagine This team gave me the opportunity to bring actors together and cast the roles and do a table reading, which was taped on YouTube. And even though I had those other rejections, they didn't matter, because all I could focus on were these two things that I did do and I needed to work on, and I needed to handle those. And that's the way that you've got to treat it. So when anxiety comes in and starts collapsing, you're like, all right, I got to do this. Okay, what are my next steps? Just shut that language down that's going on in your head, that other voice or whatever, and say, okay, my next steps are. And, you know, I am still putting the scripts into film festivals because that's what you do. You know, nobody's going to find you just trolling around the internet. I guess it could happen. You know, you could become friends with, I don't know, Guillermo del Toro, please, Guillermo Trilogia. And he falls in love with your work or something, and voila, you get to produce it. But that's like years too. That would be years of work. And then it's like, are you just using Guillermo? That's not really that fair. And it, you know, honestly, he's wicked cool, and I would want to be friends and stuff. I mean, Pan's Labyrinth, for God's sakes, that was awesome. There's just so much. And Hellboy characters. Anyway. So that's really kind of what I do, and it is a coping mechanism, and it's necessary, and it is actually something that healthy people do. And the brain has to be retrained. So when you get a glut of negative thoughts, you have to teach yourself to think positive, and then it just becomes more and more natural. So all those years ago when I said, I can't wake up and say I can't do this anymore, I can't feel like this anymore, and decided to start being positive focused, and then take those negative things and just say, look, I can't do anything with you, you're just bogging me down, so I'm going to set you over here. I acknowledge you, you happen, but I need to move and I need to do things, and these are my next steps. And it just went from there, and now it's just kind of a natural progression. And that's kind of like what you find in therapy and stuff. Your therapist will try to teach you to do things like this because they want you to retrain your brain to think differently, so that the glut of dark doesn't come in again and bog you down, because you don't need it. So taking that hot bath so that you can think for a minute, you know, dropping off the kids with grandma, taking your dog for a walk, whatever. It's like, it's just one tiny step, but it's a step forward, and it's a way for you to maybe kind of turn down the volume on those voices, take the anxiety, and it's like, it's so hard though with anxiety, because you're like, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for this, I gotta do this, which is, I meet that, and maybe I indulge it a little too much. Some people may disagree with that. The next steps thing helps me deal with my anxiety, so I can game plan. And now my anxiety is occupied with, okay, so now we have a plan, and what's our plan, and what about all this? Because my anxiety loves planning. It loves examining everything and taking it and rearranging it and pointing out all the things. And I'm like, I've been at it so long that I can point out all the pitfalls. And now I know how to address each one and say, okay, so if this happens, I do this, and if this happens, I do this. And what's the game plan, you know, to address all those? So I've now turned the anxiety against itself to figure out how to beat it. And it's not easy. It takes years of practice. And you just got to start. You just got to start. And if you have any questions, you can leave them for me down in the comments. You can leave them on my blog. But if you need immediate attention, if you have a therapist, please call them. If you don't, you know, call somebody that you're close with that understands you and talk with them. Because I don't always get to these comments right away, so I can't just, you know, step in and help you. And I may not see them depending on how many I get. And it's like, I'm working full-time and have a daughter, and it's like, I do want to help you, so hopefully this video is that help to you. But if you need immediate help, please reach out to someone. And I know that's a huge ask that can be very stressful in itself, but if there's someone that you trust, or get someone that you trust, that's what you should do. Do it. Okay? Don't listen to that voice in your head saying, they're not going to listen, they're going to try to tell me this. Do it. For the sake of yourself. Okay, that's self-care. And you should never let anybody tell you that self-care is unimportant, or that you're being selfish with that self-care. Now, alright, so like if you're taking hot baths and drinking champagne and chewing truffles, you know, constantly, that might be, you know, you might be taking a little too much self-care, but, you know, as long as everybody else is chill and you don't have anything to address, have that, you know. But be sure to take time for yourself when things go wrong. Take time for your health. Make sure that you're getting enough exercise if you can, or activities, etc., mental stimulation. And finding those connections that are important to you and help us survive. That's how people who you think or perceive are positive and successful are doing it. They have all those connections. They're addressing all of these things. And you can. You can. Give yourself permission and tell that voice, you don't know what you're talking about. I can do this. And I'm going to go do this. And I'm going to show you. That's pretty much what I do. Let me show you me doing this. And I get that inner dialogue myself. And that's basically how I address it. I go, this is me doing what you just told me I couldn't do. And that's the most important. Also, I stopped seeking approval for a lot of stuff from outside. I needed to go back and say, do I approve of the job that I'm doing? Do I approve of where I'm at? Do I approve? And if not, what can I do to approve of that? And what is it that I need to do in order to do this job that I want to do, like the screenwriting and the writing and game plan? And keep a journal with all your plans in it. You know, write stuff down. Write down, okay, this didn't work, and I think that this might be why. Instead of letting it just, darken your doorstep with, you're a failure and you suck. That's unhelpful, okay? What you need to do is say, okay, so I tried it, and this didn't quite work out the way that I expected. What could I do differently next time? So that's one way to kind of look at 2020. It was horrible. People have died. People have lost loved ones. People that I care about have been sick. They've lost loved ones, and it's heartbreaking. And, and politically, we're just in such a horrible time, and nothing is going to fundamentally change. And that's frightening in itself. As you watch these two sides battle it out to basically just have the guy in the blue jersey instead of the guy in the red jersey. But it's the same stuff. I mean, literally, you can go back and checklist them and do the same things. Just one says it a little bit nicer, more articulately. The other one's... So, it's not helping anyone. And then there's all this fighting and stuff online about it, and people are just being absolutely obtuse about the way that they're behaving. And, oh, that's not me, I'm right, and I voted for the good guy. It's like, did you? Did you really? Did you? That's a good guy? Because I can't imagine 15 years ago that would have fly at all. He would have been dropped out and gone. And it is an absolute effing shame the way we're behaving right now. And there's a lot of self-reflection that has to go on. And that weighs heavily on the depressed and anxious. Very much so, And then the news media not helping with that either. Just constantly filling your head and your TV with, end of days. While Q is trying to cause the end of days. It's just... so ridiculous, and people need to check themselves and get a grip. And my advice is to take care of yourself and be open and honest with yourself, and the self-reflection is super important. Take blame for what you can take blame for. Reject what you shouldn't take blame for. Change what is within your power to change. And let go of those things that you can't change, even if they're hurting you. And you want to fight that. It may be a longer game plan, but you're going to have to be open and honest enough with yourself to say, am I going to be able to change this or affect this in a way that I can make it okay? That's a question you'll have to answer for yourself. But Finn is starting to bark. So he wants to go outside. So I will see you next time. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe below. You can leave me your questions that you would like answered on the vlog. So anything about writing, my books, etc., more than happy to answer. Thank you. Bye.